This is Karen with New Cleveland Radio.net, and it is time for the most wonderful program that we have at New Cleveland Radio. It's called What in the World with.
Oh, wow. What an intro. Thank you, Karen, with Paul Seaburn. That's me. Wow. Your check is in the mail, Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's right. I am Paul Seaburn, and this is What in the World, everybody's favorite weird news show. I hope it's everybody's favorite weird news show. It's certainly mine. And with that wonderful intro, I want to introduce Karen Hale, the media mogul at newclevelandradio.net, our platform, and also our co-host on the show. Also on the screen over there is John DiNallo, my old friend, who is the host of What in the World of Sports, and also our color commentary. So hi, John.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Karen. And hello.
Hi, John.
Okay, now I expect you to have a nice intro for me next week, John. So you need to be.
I'll start working.
No checks for you.
Understand. Oh.
So anyways, thank you everyone out there for joining us on What in the World. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, watching us live, if you are, thank you so much for joining us on your Tuesday afternoon, which is where we're generally recording or broadcasting live, 3:30 Eastern. Let's see, we're still on daylight time, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, we are.
We are in the Eastern time zone. We're in Northeast Ohio, and it's another beautiful day in Northeast Ohio today. So I hope it's beautiful where you are. If you're looking to laugh and have a good time and get away from the bad news, you've come to the right place. That's what in the World is all about. Our motto is real news, sometimes strange, always funny. The news stories that we'll be talking about are from around the world, sometimes out from outer space. I think I may have one or two space stories today. Strange stuff that I've come across during my week as the editor and head writer at mysteriousuniverse.org. Difference with What in the World is we have much more fun with the stories that I'm allowed to do with Mysterious Universe. So we'll be laughing, we'll be telling jokes, and hopefully you'll be laughing along with us. Hopefully you'll learn something. You know, we are occasionally educational by accident. I don't know how it happens. We always have some trivia. John is our trivia guy, and weird sports again with John. I know he's got another good one this week that I've never heard of. So let's get right to it. Again, thanks to everybody for being with us. No matter how you're watching us or listening to us, like us, follow us, do all that stuff you're supposed to do. Go to newclevelandradio.net, take a look at some of the other podcasts that Karen has. You could not believe the wide range of podcasts available on newclevelandradio.net. Anything that you can imagine, you will find there. So, but nothing as funny as What in the World. And Karen said it.
You're the funniest. Absolutely. In fact, Linda says the same thing.
Let's see if she's saying that. And who said that?
Linda.
Oh, the text chick. Thank you, text chick. Yeah, let's see if you're saying that 55 minutes from now. Anyways. All right, John, I've got some stories for you. Always, John is always interested in Bigfoot. So
yes, I am very much so.
Yeah. John loves Bigfoot. So we got a mini Bigfoot story from Pennsylvania, as a matter of fact. The story right next door, state right next door to us, with pictures, John. So be ready.
I'll be ready. Good.
We've got some things get ourselves ready for Halloween. A haunted baby cradle was appeared at a museum in Lynchburg. Perfect name for a haunted place, Lynchburg, Virginia. I think I wrote West Virginia in my promo. It's actually in Virginia. We've got Martians in Israel, Karen. So
wow.
Let's see if they go to temple or not.
Okay.
People are shooting cow patties with lightning. So we're going to find out why anyone would do something like that, and they actually think there's a benefit to it. So that may be our sport for next week, John.
Oh boy! God save us all.
Yes,
there you go. And we're going to talk some trivia. We're going to talk a little bit about the Exorcist movie. There's some people who are living in the house that inspired that movie, which was based on a true story. So we're going to learn a little bit about that. A wonderful musician from the Northeast Ohio area, Dave Grohl, the lead singer of Foo Fighters, the drummer from Nirvana, about to be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the second time, number 2.
Wow.
Not too many people have the distinction. He will be in the same category as the 4 Beatles. That's
Wow,
that's
that is
pretty
exciting.
exclusive territory. Only Eric Clapton is the only artist who is has made it into the Rock Hall 3 times. There's plenty of women, I think Tina Turner is going in for her second time this year too. So a lot of people, I think, deserve it. Dave Grohl certainly does. Anyway, well, why are we talking about Dave Grohl? Dave Grohl has some interesting things to say about what he would do when he meets space aliens, and he firmly believes that he will meet them. So interesting guy. We got some, I think we have some unusual world records. I usually have some buried in here somewhere. More odd news and trivia, and of course, the sports with John. And then we wrap things up with everybody's favorite weird news game, Bluff the co-host. So you place your bets early, and let's get started. Oh, I have a Halloween picture I want to share with you. So let's take a look at that first. I found this as I'm wandering through Facebook. And to preface it, John and I both grew up in a city called Cleveland, Ohio, which is a suburb of, Parma, Ohio. I'm a brain fart there. So we both grew up in Parma, Ohio. Parma is known as a blue class city, blue collar city. We're going to edit that out later, right, Karen?
No, we're not.
Blue collar city. People who after World War II owned their first homes in Parma, Ohio, and they were very proud of them. They would put things in front of their houses to make them look special. And the number one thing that they put in front of their house, John, was
the pink flamingo.
Yes.
Pink flamingos. That's right. So this is the Halloween season, and I found somebody sent me this picture from Parma, Ohio. How they decorate. There we go. Nice little
Oh
Halloween.
my gosh.
I know Tex Chick can relate to this because I believe we had pink flamingos in our yard when we lived in Texas, in Houston. So those are, for those of you who can't see it, someone decorated their front yard with pink flamingos with skeletons riding them, kind of like the people ride ostriches in Australia. So
interesting.
Never seen something like that, Paul. This is new to me.
Well, here's how my life is going, John and Karen. The lovely Donna, my wife, saw that and said, well, that's what we're doing next year. So I have exactly a little over a year now to find them.
Just
remember
what city you live in.
Oh, that's right. I don't live in Parma anymore.
Yeah.
I have to get a variance from the mayor. So anyways, I'll take that down there for a second. We don't have to take a look at that. So I mentioned that John and I grew up in the same city. We both also went to Catholic grade schools that were very close to each other. John and I didn't know each other until we got to college. But I always like to share church stories with him. So John, this church story comes from England, where the pastor of a Victorian church that dates back to the 1800s, called St. Michael's. So this is a very modern pastor. It's a female pastor, and she decided that in order to attract more young people to the church, she's going to change the name. So she changed the name from St. Michael's to St. Mike's in order to make it a more casual, welcoming kind of church, I guess. So, this would be illegal. This would be ground execution. We're growing. I don't think you don't mess with the name of your church, right, John?
I would agree. Yes, I would agree. You don't mess with the name of your church.
That's right. John went to St. Charles. You would not call it St. Chuck's. I went to St. Francis. You would not call it St. Frank's. However, the way my mind goes, well, if these guys can do it now, maybe we should be coming up with some different names for churches. So I've got a few that I would like to, that I might consider going to. A couple of names. Here we go here. How about this one? Our Lady of Good Times. Good one. How about this one? This is for another denomination. We're all First Baptist Church. Everybody wants to be
Right.
first. You
That's
can't
right.
be second anymore. How about this one? St. Peter the whatever. Here's a couple more. This is for the sports-minded, John. Safe at Second Baptist Church. There's a big Second Baptist Church in Houston. I know Tex Chick knows about that one. Holy Grounds. That more of a maybe they have coffee once a week.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe
Holy
they're
Grounds, yeah.
connected with Starbucks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Another holy one, Church of the Holy Socks. And my favorite, Jesus on the Dashboard Church. When was the last time you saw a little plastic Jesus on the dashboard? Karen,
you don't see it very often.
No, Karen, you drive around quite a bit. Have you seen one lately?
I don't look for that.
Oh, you don't. Oh, that's right. There's an interesting reason why Karen doesn't look for that, and we'll just leave it there. You can
That's
think
right.
about it for yourself. So I posted this on Facebook, and I'll mention this to everyone that you want to get in contact with us, or if you have some ideas, by all means. I have a Facebook page. Karen has a Facebook page. We'll send a message to John. He doesn't have one. He's in another sect, another cult. So anyway, one of my friends on Facebook said, "How about the Church of What's Happening Now?" Now that rang a bell. Did that ring a bell with either one of you? The Church of What's Happening Now.
No.
Oh, not really.
Okay, so I was a huge fan of Flip Wilson when I was a kid, the comedian, and he did characters, and one of his characters was the Reverend Leroy, who was the president of the church of the pastor of the Church of What's Happening Now. And as soon as I looked at, I knew I could find it. So he would invite people, the newcomers, to come to church, and he'd say, at the beginning you got to crawl, and they would say, yeah, we got to crawl. And then he says, and then you get more spiritual and you got to walk. They go, yeah, we got to walk. And then he'd say, and then when we really become holy, you got to run. And they would say, yeah, we got to run, Rev, we got to run. And he said, but in order for us to run, we need money. And they would say, we're going to crawl, Rev, we're going to crawl. So that's the kind of humor he used to do.
Sure.
It was in that church, the Church of What's Happening Now, where he introduced another famous character, and that was Geraldine. Long before anybody else did it, Flip Wilson would dress in women's clothing. Very nice looking guy, lady he made, by the way. And Geraldine was one of his parishioners. I don't know what they called them, but he was a member of the congregation. And Geraldine would occasionally succumb to sinful things like buying extravagant outfits. And when the Reverend Leroy would call her on that, she would say, the devil made me buy this dress. And that became, for you kids out there, 50 years ago, every person in the United States was saying, the devil made me buy this, fill in the blank.
Yep.
John used to say it all the time. I think it was about beer. Or this hat. So the Flip Wilson show, he had a variety show back then, and it was number one for a number of years. Then it became number two to All in the Family. So that shows you how powerful Flip Wilson was and how powerful his show was to be number two to All in the Family, one of the greatest shows of all time. So I figured that's what this person was talking about. And then I Googled the Church of What's Happening Now one more time, and I found out that there's a modern version, a real Church of What's Happening Now. And Karen, it was up until 2020 a podcast hosted by Joey Coco Diaz and his partner Lee Syatt, and they were in LA, and they used to interview celebrities and talk about what's going on in LA, and that's what they called their little podcast, the Church of What's Happening Now.
I like that.
So for any people who got confused by me talking about Flip Wilson, I also honor Joey Coco Diaz. We all need, we should work on that one of these days. We all need some nicknames.
Oh, that'd be good. That would be good.
Yeah, I think
all right.
we're going to think. And in fact, if anybody has nicknames for us, by all means, send us a note, an email, put it on Facebook, something like that. Please be kind. Remember, this is a fun show. We're trying to have some fun here. So I showed the Halloween picture just in time for Halloween. Virginia's Lynchburg Museum in Lynchburg, Virginia, you can figure that out, has received the city's most scary historical item. This is something that's been lost for years. They found it. It's a excuse me, a self-rocking cradle. In 1837, and this links to our previous story about the church, 1839, the Reverend William Smith lived on Jackson Street in Lynchburg, still there. He and his wife had a baby, and they're sitting in their parlor or whatever it is that they sit in, getting ready to put their baby into their cradle, and the cradle starts rocking all by itself.
Ooh.
Yeah. So according to the news stories, the Reverend immediately thought that it was the devil. And his wife said, the devil made me buy this cradle. But he tried to call upon the devil, and the cradle started rocking even more. So they apparently invited people over. They had witnesses. Now, this is back in 1839. So there were no photos, John. There were just the newspaper reports.
Right, a little bit
I know, yeah, drawings.
Yeah.
Right.
With the little circles, like cartoons, to make you think you were watching it move. And then it disappeared. And it would pop up occasionally, it would disappear again. So it turns out for the last 50 years, descendants of the Reverend were keeping it, and they finally decided they didn't want it anymore. So they donated it to the museum. So all anybody wants to know now is they look at it and they hope that it rocks. And if it does, they want to know if Amazon is selling replicas, because everybody wants a self-rocking cradle, especially one that you don't have to recharge or put batteries in. I know my niece just had a baby, and she goes through batteries like there's no tomorrow in that thing that swings the baby back and forth.
It's called a swing.
Yeah. Well, with the battery operated.
Right.
Yeah. We'll just move on from there.
Okay.
So the devil made his wife buy that cradle. So now this is, as I mentioned, I like to put stories on Facebook, and this is another one for you, John. This is a musical one, although none of us really, I don't think, are that musical, but I think you'll relate to this. Musical inventor by the name of Steve Gadlin started a Kickstarter fundraiser and raised $35,000 so that he could build his invention. And it's a real invention. It's a real tool that guitarists use. It's called a
Oh no.
a fart pedal. It's a pedal for guitars, and they change the tone by stepping on this little pedal on an electric guitar, and different sounds come out of the guitar. So he decided he wanted one that made fart sounds. So he raised $35,000, more than he needed, and there it is. I have a picture of it on the screen. A display of the fart pedal. It's actually a how-to. How does the fart pedal work? And there's a there's an input from your guitar signal. There's an output to the amp, which is where the blazing toots come out of the amp, according to this picture. There's a dial to regulate how much gas is in the mix. And finally, my favorite, there's a toggle switch, so you can toggle between dry farts and wet farts.
Oh,
now,
no.
Isn't that's an impressive inventor, John? Someone who puts that much thought and technology into getting fart noises out of his electric guitar.
Do you know if he filed a patent for it? With the patent?
He owns all the rights. I couldn't find a patent, but he noted in the article that he owns all the rights. He worked with a technology company, a guitar industry technology company, but he owns all the rights to the.
Well, we should get him on Shark Tank.
Oh yeah. Well, I was thinking, what song would be perfect to use the fart pedal on, and I came up with it. Classical Gas.
By Mason Williams.
Mason Williams. I knew John would know the artist, which is an instrumental, so you could put the fart all the way through there. The inventor, Steve Gadlin, plays it. Look up fart pedal on Google, and it basically just makes a noise in the middle of a song. I couldn't think of how you could work it into an actual song, but I know some music that is well deserving of a fart noise. Anything by Meatloaf, anything by Kenny G. This is the perfect thing. And I know some of my fans will say any polkas deserve a fart pedal. So one of the lovely Donna's cousins I know would agree with that. I think he listens to the show once in a while. If you're on, you're listening. Hi, how are you? Okay, so speaking of farting, here's a segue for us. See how we're doing on time here. Company by name of Shreddies has invented, it is another invention for you, but they had the money to do it, and you'll find out why. They invented, here it comes, the flatulence filtering duvet cover. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Duvet?
Duvet.
The duvet cover. For John, that's a blanket. In case you didn't know what a duvet was, because I didn't. It's an anti-fart blanket that they've invented that contains carbon panels that absorb flatulence while you're in bed, so that you don't offend either yourself, if you're that bad, or your partner. And so they can sleep in pleasant, non-smelly peace.
Fragrances.
Yeah. These guys, this is what they do for a living. Shreddies is the name. Their website touts this is the latest in a long line of successful odor eliminating products that the Shreddies brand is known for, including their patented underwear, undershorts, and cushions. There you go. Now that's a perfect idea for airplanes.
Oh my.
The flatulence filtering cushion for airplanes, because you know what happens to those cushions, and they don't clean them. And next thing you know, the plane goes down over water, and that's your flotation device. And you're thinking, geez, how many people have farted in this? And now I'm supposed to hang on to this for days until I get rescued. I don't know. So Shreddies, to convince you that you need this, John, Shreddies says the average person passes wind between 14 and 20 times per day, but some have excessive gas at night because they're lying down. So there you go.
And it stays the reason, I guess.
There you go. Yeah, here's your project. Get yourself a pad and a paper, and I want you to count how many times you fart a day and see if you need one of these, because we could get a sponsorship out of this.
Oh,
Could we really?
No.
Oh boy.
So I just wanted to see if John would come back next week and say, oh my God, you would not believe, or he would be bragging. Oh, I don't, 4. And that was after I had beans. So, so this is a product to help you with problems in the bedroom. Speaking of problems in the bedroom, there's my other segue for today. That deserves a horn. 2 segues in a row. Speaking of problems in the bedroom, Karen, I know I'll bet you have this issue in your family, and that is one partner likes it hot and one partner likes it cold. And that could be the temperature of the room. That could be the temperature of the bed. I'm not going to ask John because I don't want to cause any trouble in your family.
I'll only cause trouble in my family.
No.
I don't know, Karen. It gets better you than I guess.
So anyways, and this always amazes me, there's a study was done recently on why this might be. Why is it that one partner's hot and the other partner is cold, and they can't agree? So researchers, and this is particularly true of women, I think, women are more vocal about whether they're hot or cold. So they studied why women feel colder than men, and they've determined evolutionary many mammals and birds, and get ready for this, Karen, as a way to keep spatial separation between the males and the females, which lowers competition and also aggression between the sexes. So this is an evolutionary thing. One is hot, one is cold, that keeps them apart so that it reduces aggression and tension between the two parties. So it's a benefit, not a drawback.
No,
You're not buying that?
no. I think it causes more aggression.
There you go. That's what I
Or
said.
privation,
I
or
said they
privation.
obviously didn't conduct this test in a bedroom with
Yeah.
two people under a blanket fighting over which one's hot and which one's cold and pulling it over and pulling it off. And so, John, now I'm gonna give you a hint. They didn't conduct this study on people, which you would think they would do. A study about why humans disagree on hot and cold. You think they would do it on people? They did not test people. What creature do you think they tested in order to come to this conclusion?
I'm going to say a chimpanzee or
A
chimpanzee.
chimpanzee would be a very good idea. Karen, how about
No.
you?
Probably a mouse.
A mouse. Okay. Karen's closer, believe it or not, John. They tested bats.
Bats.
Bats, yeah. Bats. You know, those things
They
that
hang.
that's right. When they're asleep, they hang upside down and they each have their own individual blanket. They have their wings
Their
that
wings.
they wrap around each other. So there's never any fighting over who's hot or who's cold among bats because they all have their own blanket. If they're fighting, it's because one of them called the other one an old bat.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only reason bats fight. I don't get it. Scientific studies baffle me. And the people who fund, God bless the scientists who can convince people to give them money to study bats in order to figure out why men and women are different.
I don't see the correlation at all. I
Neither
really
do
I
don't.
don't. Thank you, John. I don't either. I don't. And John, these are serious studies, and they use all kind of scientific speak in them. So it's hard for me to. I always look for the summary and the conclusion. Those are the two pieces I read, and a lot of times I can't even decipher the summary. So then I look for a press release because then the press releases are written for stupid people. And that's, I can kind of work my way through the press release.
Or people
No.
not that bright. Maybe let's.
There you go. Oh, wait, I have one more segue here. Speaking of fighting, this. Oh, I love this one here. So this comes to us from California. A California man is suing a psychic. Get ready for this, Karen. This is our right up our alley when it comes to
Okay.
relationship stories. Suing a psychic who promised him that she could save his marriage if he paid her $5,000 to remove a curse that was put on his marriage by a witch who was hired by his ex-girlfriend. Okay, so his ex-girlfriend hired a witch to put a curse on him. The psychic said, for $5,000, I can remove the curse. Didn't work. So now he's suing the psychic. So my question, so now he's got to pay a lawyer. My question is, was that part of the curse? Because that would make sense to me. Not only do you make the guy unhappy, but you make him spend even more money on a lawyer just to get out of this curse. But my favorite part of this story, the psychic, the psychics, and I'm not going to give her name because I don't want to hurt her business, but her website bills her as the psychic love specialist and a PhD life coach.
Wow.
Which, according to the lawsuit, made the plaintiff more confident that he was speaking with a professional that could help him. So that's what we need to do. We not only do we need nicknames, we need titles so that people think that we're professionals at what we do.
What do you mean you think? We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Second thought.
Convince, okay.
I agree with
Convince
Karen.
the skeptic. Let's put it that way. All right. You're right. You put me down there. Thanks.
Okay.
But this is what's wrong with America. You know, it's suing because the psychic didn't help them remove a curse. So now here's a couple from the what could possibly go wrong file. And I love these kinds of stories, because, Karen will automatically, before I can get too far, will say, oh no, or what could possibly go wrong. So have you driven past a dairy farm lately, or maybe a ranch or a field of cows?
Yeah.
If you roll down your window, what happens? What's the first
Nothing.
thing you notice? What's the first thing you notice when you roll down your window? Here's what I noticed.
Okay.
I noticed that cow skin looks nothing like leather. I've never been able to understand that. How does brown leather, come from those black and white cows? Nobody can explain that to me. I'll vote for that person. Anyways, no, what comes in the window is the smell. The smell
Okay.
of the manure. We talked about manure before. How soon we forget. So this story comes from the United Kingdom. And this is another scientific study. They people were complaining about the smell of the slurry, which is not just cow patties, but all of the stuff, all of the excrement mixed together and put into these giant pools. And it's causing methane gas and causing greenhouse gases and all this stuff. Plus it stinks really bad. So they said, you need to do something about it. So these scientists, they came up with a great idea. They took artificial lightning, which is plasma, and they shot it at the manure. What could possibly go wrong? Their purpose was to break up the ammonia. They claimed that it would break up the ammonia, it would break down the methane, and it would reduce the smell, which apparently it did, and it would reduce the climate changing gases, which apparently it did, thus eliminating the stink and turning it into something that they could use. I don't know what they would use it for. So you know what happens when they do these kinds of stories? People like me look at it and say, how could I use this same technology to make money? And I had an idea, and I'm not going to tell you what the idea was until I show you the picture of what could possibly go wrong. But I was thinking, what's the smelliest thing that I can think of? And that would be, let's see if I could bring the picture up here. There we go. I don't want to bring the fart pedal up. We're going to show the fart pedal again. Everybody get ready. There's the fart pedal. So what's the smelliest thing that I could think of? And that would be a porta potty.
Oh my gosh.
And so I thought, this is a perfect thing. I could sell my service going to porta potties and shoot lasers down into the hole and make them smell wonderful. And then I went looking to see if this was such a good idea. And for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube or live, this is a picture of a porta potty launching like a rocket. And I have a feeling that's what would happen if I squirted liquid lightning or whatever it is that they shot down there into the hole of the porta potty. Scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's an amazing picture.
Isn't it though? This
Yes.
this was actually a picture of people who wanted to launch a porta potty, which is another one of those what could possibly go wrong scenarios. All right, so we don't want to look at that anymore. So John, you remember the movie The Exorcist, John and Karen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Famous, based on a book first, 1973, The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty was his name. He wrote the screenplay for the movie, one of the greatest, scariest movies of all time. So it's a couple in Maryland buys an old house, and they're puzzled because the house was really cheap, and a bunch of offers came in and that were ahead of theirs and fell out. And all of a sudden, this house falls into their lap at a really reasonable price. And the owner thought, gee, I wonder if there's something wrong with this house. Should have thought of that before she bought it. But so she buys it, she finds out that the house that the couple bought was the inspiration for The Exorcist. It turns out in 1949, a teenage boy lived there, and he was supposedly possessed by a demon or the devil, and priests were brought in and they exorcised him. And according to the reports, he actually rose. I don't think his head spun around or he spit green pea soup like the movie, but he did all those exorcist kinds of things. The rooms turned cold. They could see their breath, all those cool things. So this couple ends up with the house. Nobody told them that it was there's no disclosure in Maryland that you're buying the house that the Exorcist was the inspiration for. So everybody claims, she goes to the real estate people. Oh, no, there's no demons in there now. The only demons haunting them are the people who come knocking on the door saying, isn't this the house from The Exorcist? What she found out, the owner, she researched demons, and she found out that demons, unlike ghosts, possess people rather than houses or property or physical things. And since this is a house, and she's going to assume that it was a demon. The house is not possessed by the demon anymore. So I guess that's good news. I don't know. Okay, so
possessed anyway.
yeah, he's right. So
Doesn't
now
matter.
I mentioned at the beginning that John's a big fan of Bigfoot. And so John, you know, we've talked about Bigfoot enough times. Every state has their own Bigfoot, and a lot of states like to give their own name to their Bigfoot. You remember the story, the name of the Ohio Bigfoot?
You know, I don't.
Oh no, Karen. I'll throw that to Karen.
So aren't we the grass man?
The Ohio Grassman. That's right.
Okay.
Let's go back here to the porta potty here. So John, Pennsylvania. Oh, so Ohio has the Ohio Grassman. Pennsylvania has their own Bigfoot, and it's called the Alba Twitch. Alba Twitch. Okay, and every year they have an annual Alba Twitch festival in Columbia, Pennsylvania, which is in Lancaster County, where the Amish people live. And I'm just going to mention that. I'll bring that up again later. The last weekend was the annual festival, and we just missed it. We could have gone and seen it. And I know you would like it. Yeah, because the Alba Twitch is actually a 4-foot tall Bigfoot. It's a mini Bigfoot. I happen to have a picture here for you. There, nice clear picture, isn't that, John?
Oh yeah, real clear.
It is. Look how that is a that is a very representative picture of a Bigfoot. Look how blurry it is. You can't make out anything.
There you go. All you make out is pixels. So the Alba Twitch is named for what the creature does. It's a modification of the word Apple Snitch, which I think is an Amish term. And that's what they would do. They would steal apples from the local farmers. And the farmers couldn't catch who was doing, so they blamed it on the Alba, what do they call them? The Alba Twitch or the Apple Snitch. So this is a drawing of one, John. So now you get a better look at what they might look like.
More clear, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's up in a tree, looking down and looking very angry. So
Yes.
the legend is that the Alba Twitches would steal apples from picnickers. So people, you know, having a ham sandwich and then having an apple afterwards, they would steal them to chase the picnickers away from their forest. Eventually throwing apples at them. And I've done that story before, where they sit up in the tree and especially if they start making out under the tree, the Alba Twitch doesn't like that. So they throw the apples at couples to chase them away. Which is one of we talked about this before. Bigfoot in general likes apples, which is why it's Washington State, besides having all kind of places to hide, also has a lot of apples, and that's why there's a lot of Bigfoot there, so they say. But I came across an interesting theory recently that Native Americans and possibly the Amish invented the whole idea of the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch in order to scare the European settlers away. You know, they told them, well, yeah, sure, you can come here, but there's this 8-foot tall beast that lives in the forest right over there. And if they like you, they'll throw apples at you. But if they don't, they'll eat you. So just saying, your boat still looks like in good shape. You might make it back to England. Just saying. And I kind of believe that the Amish thought that way for quite a long time, until they found out that these stupid people that came from Europe will pay a fortune for wooden furniture. And once they figured that out, that was it. They didn't care. So that was the
birth of the Amish furniture industry. Is that right?
There you go. The Bigfoot spurned the Amish furniture industry. So now, a Bigfoot is something you would not want to wake up and have in your bed, unless you're another Bigfoot. But there's something worse than waking up and finding a big Bigfoot in your bed. And this actually happened to a lady in British Columbia just this past week. She woke up and found this in her bed. Now, I've got a picture of a giant rock in this lady's bed and a hole in the ceiling right above where she was sleeping. Now, fortunately, she had rolled over and the rock did not hit her because it's right by her pillow. So her name is Ruth Hamilton. She lives in Golden, British Columbia. On October 4th, she wakes up to this huge sound. She turns over and rolls right onto this rock that came shooting through her ceiling. So she immediately called, first she puts it on Facebook, but then she calls 911 and the police come and they look at it. And first thing they do is they reassure her that it's not construction debris from the road crews that are working on the road by her house. So she was relieved at that, but they couldn't figure out what it was. So then she started asking the neighbors and they said, oh my God, you didn't see the meteor shower last night? But it turns out at 11 o'clock the previous night, there was a big meteor shower and pieces were falling off of it. And sometime during the night, they estimate somewhere around midnight, one of the pieces fell through her roof and landed on her bed and just missed her. So, you never know what your future might hold. This lady happened to have her house hit by a meteor. So I looked up. We've done this story before. She's okay, and she's going to keep it and give it to her grandkids. I don't know why they would want it, but they'd rather. Well, no, never mind. I won't even say that. So she's so I looked up death by meteorite because she obviously survived. And I remember doing this story a couple of years ago, that in 1888, the world's only known instance of a person being hit and killed by a meteorite took place in Iraq. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name, but one man was killed and another was paralyzed when a meteor fell from the sky and knocked both of them down. In 1954, in Alabama, Oak Grove, Alabama, Ann Hodges was also asleep in bed, just like Ruth was in British Columbia. And a meteor came through her house and she was on the couch and it hit her on the hip. And she survived and she's okay. And it's now in the Alabama Museum of Natural History. Not the hip, the meteor. The odds, if you're a wagering person, the odds of getting hit by a meteorite, 1 in 250,000. So
Wow.
you're much more likely to get hit by a car than you are to get hit by a meteorite. Certainly not killed by
or see
one.
a Bigfoot, or see a Bigfoot.
She avoided, yeah. Oh yeah. So anyway, I think we're gonna stop right here and because the next story is a little long, and I wanted to get to John and our sports for the day. I'll tell you what, Dave. I want to mention Dave Grohl because I'm a big fan of the Foo Fighters. I'll take this down here, and I think that it's great. He didn't grow up in Cleveland, but he was born and spent his early years in the Akron, Warren area, if I'm not mistaken. So he just wrote his memoir. And he's going around promoting it, and he's also promoting the fact that Foo Fighters are getting into the Rock Hall of Fame. And he mentions that in an interview that he's a total UFO nerd. He called his band Foo Fighters, which is a World War II term for the UFOs that used to follow pilots who couldn't understand what they were. So they called them Foo Fighters. I think there was a derogatory part to the Foo part. But that's what it ended up to be when they came home and told their wives and girlfriends. So Dave Grohl in the interview says, I believe we're not alone. I'm totally okay with that. It doesn't really change my day too much, but I'm the romantic type. When I look up at the stars, I think, God, I hope we're not alone. What a drag that would be. And Dave Grohl is considered one of the nicest people in rock and roll. If he's ever on the Tonight Show or any of the other shows, tune in and watch him. He's very funny, very entertaining guy, besides being a heck of a musician. So he was asked what he would do if a spaceship suddenly appeared at one of his concerts. And he's such a good guy, he would finish the concert first. That's what he said. Nothing stopped Foo Fighters, not aliens, not anything. So we would finish the concert. And he says, and then I would say to the aliens, why don't you come over to my place after the concert? We'll have some barbecue. So, but believe it or not, so then he says, you know, he would actually serve them something that they might be interested in eating, because he was asked, if you were not a rock star, this is a typical question, if you weren't a rock star, what would you be? And he said that when he was a kid, in addition to being a rock star, he wanted to be an astrophysicist. But apparently, I think he made the right choice. But he used to spend all of his time online. He still does now, in the science section of Google News. That's what he does all day long when he's not making millions of dollars as the head of Foo Fighters. So I think Dave Grohl would be a much better representative, ambassador of Earth than Keith Richards or some of the other goofballs, that rockers that have seen UFOs and claim they've been abducted. Ron Wood's another one. So here's, you know, Dave Grohl got a lot of publicity during the pandemic because a little girl, fabulous drummer, posted a video on YouTube of herself drumming to one of Foo Fighters' biggest hits, one that he drummed on. And she was so good, she impressed him. So he did a drum competition with her on YouTube. And you know, most people thought she was better than him. So he invited her to a concert, and he brought her up on stage for the encore, and they played the song. They put her in his drum kit and here she's got Foo Fighters, little 9-year-old girl. She's got 30,000 people out in the audience, and she just nails it. Oh, she nails it. So they pick her up, they bring her down, they're all doing their bows, and she's waving and having. They couldn't get her off the stage. She wanted to do more. This is the guy we need as our ambassador to
Absolutely.
extraterrestrials. Dave Grohl. God bless you, Dave Grohl. Congratulations on getting for the second time into the Rock Hall of Fame. I think it's just wonderful. So none of us are going to get into the Rock Hall of Fame. But you know, John, if there's a Hall of Fame for the sport you're about to talk to us about, I think we might have a chance of at least being considered. It doesn't sound like, you know, we may be able to do this, which is what I always ask John to find a sport that we could do. So, John, I'm going to turn it right over to you with what in the world of sports for this week, John DiNallo.
Oh, thanks, Paul. So here is our sport this week. It is called 360 ball. Now, 360
ball. 360. A ball is 360 degrees around, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, let me explain.
Okay, so you're not referring to its shape.
No, but 360 ball is a sport that's similar to playing racquetball, but instead of hitting a rubber ball off the walls of an indoor court, players bounce the ball across a concave disc that is laid in the center of the court. And the game can be played 1-on-1 or 2-on-2.
Okay. So I put a picture up here for Karen and for those of you watching live or on YouTube of 4 people, just as John said, and they're around, you know, it almost looks like a wading pool.
Yes, it
a
does.
larger wading pool, which
Sure.
is concave. You said concave, which means it's curved in, right?
Correct.
Like a bowl. Okay,
Yes,
got it.
yes. As
And-
opposed
and
to not
they're-
balance. Right.
Yeah, they're holding rackets and they're whacking a ball, and the people on the other side look like they're gonna hit the ball. So far, I think we could manage this.
I think we
Obviously, there's a catch.
Let me continue on. There are no separate sides of the court. So
Oh.
players may move anywhere around the disc to play the ball. Points
Okay.
are scored when the ball is hit so hard that it bounces off the disc and an opposing player cannot return the shot.
Okay, so you bounce
Yeah.
it off the center,
Off the center.
which is on the floor for those of you who can't see it. So you're kind of bouncing it off the floor, and the person on the other side has to hit it, maybe to their partner or back, but they have to hit the floor again.
Yes, they
Everything
do.
depends on the floor,
Yes.
on the disc. Okay, got
Now,
it.
but also players or teams may only hit the ball twice before bouncing it off the disc.
Oh,
So you can't-
okay.
there's not an unlimited, number of
Like
times.
volleyball. Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
The first individual player or team that reaches 21 points wins the match. Now, as you can see, for those of you who can see on YouTube or watching live, as the equipment is needed, or as for the equipment that's needed, you must have rackets and you have to have a rubber or foam ball. A foam ball will work as well as a rubber ball.
Kind of like a racquetball ball.
Yeah, sure, sure.
All right.
And
Foam. So we wouldn't hurt ourselves.
we are correct. The playing field is an enclosed 30-foot wide circular court with an 8-foot wide, the 8-foot wide concave disc at the center. So that's basically it. That's essentially it. That's a very good picture, Paul.
This one here, this comes from the 360 Ball official website, 360ball.com, I believe it is. They have a website, Karen, that makes it official.
Wow.
And they actually have like, looks like a clear fiberglass circle wall around them.
Yes.
Although, as John said, technically you're not supposed to have a wall. You can't play it off the wall.
Right. It's just off the disc.
Yeah.
The disc. Okay. So you may think of, well, how did this sport get its start? Well, as for the origin, it was created by the brothers Mark and John Collins of South Africa. In the mid 1980s, Mark Collins stated that the game of 360 ball started when my brother John and I began bouncing a ball off a square block of slate.
Slate.
Yes.
And the rest is history.
Well, they initially played with bare hands and then used a garden hose to define the circular outer boundary.
Well, that's a good idea.
Right. The game progressed from being played with sore and bruised hands to mitts and then finally to rackets. And to make the game harder, the flat disc was replaced with a concave one. So initially, the disc was flat. Then they changed the concave to make it a little bit more, easy to.
You can't tell which direction the ball's going to be bouncing off of.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
right.
That makes sense.
Sure. So
this is, by the way, John, I when I was looking for some pictures for this, I believe this is the only sport ever originated in South Africa.
Well, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any other sport that I'm aware of, at least well-known sport or popular sport that started in that country. But it is, South Africa's got a claim here. But so anyways, for 20 years after the sport was founded, it evolved, but stayed in South Africa until 2011. And this is when 360 ball became the first ball sport to be awarded with the brand new overall award at the prestigious ISPO Brand New Awards in Munich, Germany. So it got some international play and obviously recognition.
Yeah.
Now, currently, the game has been played on beaches, as you can see, and courts across South Africa, Spain, France, and Germany. And
that looks like a fun thing to do on a beach.
Yeah, sure. And then an old water reservoir has been converted into a community 360 ball in the founder's hometown in South Africa.
What an honor.
Yes, it is. Now, in closing,
before you close, John, I think I have, here you go, Karen. I wanted to show you.
Oh, wow.
A clip. Yeah, it's a pretty fast sport. Look at them running around.
Yeah.
It is fast paced. Yes.
Yeah, I think I have one more little movie here. There we go. So yeah, it's a pretty fast paced, and not quite. It doesn't look quite as jarring as racquetball, a sport that John and I both used to play.
Right.
But definitely not for old knees, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Yeah, this cutting back and forth, I think, might eliminate us. So anyways, go ahead, John. So in closing,
it's an all-around workout with cardio and aerobic benefits, as you can see these people are benefiting from. And it is a team sport that promises social interaction and mental stimulation, including hand-to-eye coordination, while burning fat and toning muscle at the same time. So that's some of the other advantages.
Yeah,
I would say we should try doing it.
I think we should. I
will come cheer you on.
Well, thanks, Karen.
We need to find a beach first.
Right.
I like the beach aspect, but it's not a snow sport.
No, but truly a unique sport, though. I mean, really.
Yeah, I think that could be a very competitive sport. There's a lot of sports like that John comes up with that, in the grand scheme of things, we should be doing something like that, rather than watching TV or whatever it is we do.
or just sitting, right? Exactly. Yeah.
So, reason why you find out activity that's fun, that's competitive, that you might be in someday, be competitive enough to be in the Hall of Fame. So once again, 360 Ball Hall of Fame. If they have one for sportscasters, John, you're in the lead right now. I want to thank you for that story.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very good.
All right. So
Thank you, Karen.
as our regular listeners know, that once we finish with What in World of Sports, that means it's time for Bluff the co-host, everybody's favorite weird news game. I know it's Karen's favorite. I know John loves it, except when he loses. So we don't want
He
John to
studies
be upset.
for it.
I have my wife giving me quizzes every day.
I thought you tried hacking into my computer. But whatever the case, John's been on a roll lately. Although I think we ended up in a tie last week. So if you haven't played What in Bluff the co-host before, it's really simple. I have 3 stories similar to the ones that we've been telling all day, with the exception that not all of them may be true. Some may be bluffs. One or all may be bluffs. And it's up to Karen, John, and those of you playing at home to decide whether it's real or a bluff. And of course, I let you know afterwards. So hands on the buzzers, place your bets, and let's get ready with story number 1. A man in Bosnia says he was tired of listening to his wife complain about the view from their house. So he decided to build her one that she couldn't complain about. Using his own design plans, he built her a house that can rotate 360 degrees on a central axis. The speed of the rotation is variable, and the house can spin around as slow as once a day or as fast as once a minute. The moving view now includes a farm, a forest, a river, and other houses in the neighborhood. His wife is happy about the views, but is now complaining that she has to put magnets under everything to keep things from flying off the table when he cranks it up to once a minute. All right, so the man in Bosnia who answers his wife's complaints about the view from their house by building a new one that spins around on an axis so she can always be changing her view. What do you say, Karen, real or bluff?
You know, my husband may love me a lot, but I don't think he would ever build me a rotating house. And I don't think I want to live in one. So I'm going to say bluff.
Wouldn't want to live in a spinning house. I agree with that part. I think that you could convince Rich to build you something like this.
No.
I think every woman could ultimately convince a man to do something like this. Okay, so Karen says it's a bluff. John, how about you?
I'm going to say it's a bluff also. How can a house be able to turn completely around within a minute? That seems to be just way, way too fast.
Modern times, John,
I understand that, Paul.
Lots of grease. I don't know.
I find it very implausible. So I would
Wow. Okay. So for a change, John and Karen both agree that is a bluff. Let's check with the judges. And the judges say that guy in Bosnia has a lot of grease under his house because it's a real true story.
Oh my
He
God.
actually looked up plans, came up with much of the design himself, took him 6 years to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, it actually lengthened his life because he was sick as he started, and he started to feel better. It gave him a reason to live. To put his wife in a spinning house. Okay, so that means
Paul, you got us on that one.
let's check the scoreboard here.
Oh,
0-0. Oh no. All right. Well, let's get right to story number 2. Hands on the buzzers. Just days after Elon Musk announced he's moving his Tesla electric car company to Texas, another California car company announced that it will open a plant to make a car that runs on what California does best. The Mogen David Wine Company is in talks with San Francisco officials to build a plant there to make cars that run on wine and cheese. Okay, they actually run on biofuels made from the unusable byproducts of wine and cheese making. A prototype has already been running in secret on racetracks in California, and while it can run on any kind of biofuel, its engine performs best and pollutes the least on special Mogen David biofuel, which only California drivers can purchase. Mogen David officials expect to be popping a cork on the deal for the plant by the end of the year. All right, John, we'll start with you. Mogen David is building a fuel powered car that runs on the byproducts of their wine and cheese making. What do you say, real or bluff?
I'm really torn on this one. I'm gonna say it's true, though. I'm gonna say it's true.
Would you drive a car? Would you buy a car like that ran on wine and cheese?
No, I would not.
Oh.
the byproducts of the making of it, right?
Okay,
right.
all right. So John says there's such a thing as a wine and cheese car. Karen, how about you?
First of all, Mogan David doesn't put corks in their wine bottles. They're all screw-on caps. So,
A technicality. Oh boy.
yeah. And God, I hope it's not true because it doesn't even sound kosher.
Oh,
Doesn't sound kosher. What a no better reason to say that was a bluff than it doesn't sound kosher. I like that one, Karen. So Karen says it's a bluff. John, you said that's a true story. Is that correct?
yeah, that's correct.
I want to make sure, okay, before I pass it on to the judges. So the judges have ruled and they said that story is a bluff. Congratulations, Karen.
Oh.
It's not kosher. Wow. Okay, so let's check the score. That's Karen 1, John nothing. Fortunately for John, points are doubled in round number 3. So
Yes, they
he
are.
can come roaring back as he has done before. So get ready, John and Karen. Hands on the buzzer for story number 3. If you need something to get your mind off of all the pumpkin spice coffee being served these days, the Hellmann's Company is running a new campaign to increase sales by convincing people to put a big spoonful of Hellmann's mayonnaise in their coffee. Yes, it has eggs in it, but they're whipped up enough to not scramble when they hit the hot coffee. And that tangy taste of vinegar perks up your perk and makes it just a little more healthy for you. Mayo in your coffee is perfect for the lactose intolerant who are tired of soy and almond milk. And you're sure to be remembered by your barista when you order a mayo chino. Hellman says a dollop of their mayo in your coffee shows you have a quote unquote sophisticated palate. Try a cup of mayo coffee today. All right, Karen. Hellman's is promoting mayonnaise as a cream substitute for your coffee. Real or bluff?
This better be a bluff because you just made me like gag. Then we'll put all that oil in my coffee. No, thank you.
No thanks. Karen says no thanks. Not even interested. Doesn't care if it's kosher or not.
No.
Okay, so Karen says that's a bluff. John, how about you?
I think anything's possible. I'm going to say it's a true story. I'm going to say it's true.
Anything is, but that's a new one on you, John. Anything is possible. It's usually that's so weird it must be true. Okay, so John says that mayo in your coffee is a real thing. I'm gonna guess John wouldn't try it. Karen won't try it and says it's a bluff. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, let's check with the judges. Guess what, John? That's a real story. Even though John wouldn't try it, that's right.
Mayo in your coffee.
Mayonnaise in your coffee. Yeah, we'll see if it catches on. I'm not convinced.
It will change as time goes on. I don't know.
Well, you won again, John.
There you go, John. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And don't forget, a little bit of mayo in your coffee would kill the taste of the pumpkin spice that everybody got. Anyways, all right. So congratulations to John. And congratulations to any of you that got all of those right or beat the two co-hosts. It's always fun playing Bluff the co-host at home. So that brings us to the end of another week of What in the World. I hope you had a good time. I know we did. I hope you enjoyed the stories. Maybe you learned a little bit. Go looking for some strange stories on your own. It's always a fun thing to do. So I want to thank my old buddy John DiNallo. Thank you so much for being the co-host and host of What in the World of Sports. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Paul. Thanks.
Karen, thank you so much, Karen Hale, for everything you do with newclevelandradio.net and for being a great co-host on the show as well. Again, go visit newclevelandradio.net. Check out What in the World, all the platforms that we're on. I think we're on every single one of them. Visit us on YouTube. like us, follow us, do whatever you have to do. So we move up the list and slowly but surely make it to the next percentile.
Absolutely.
That's all we want. 1 percentile. That's all we're asking for.
And
So
I've been having it run on the side so I can see that it's streaming.
okay.
And it's not showing everybody, but it shows that we have an increased listenership today.
Oh, isn't
So-
that well? Thank you
so
so much to
for
everyone
whoever's
who's
listening,
listening
yeah.
live. Wow, that's streaming.
appreciate
That's the way to go. That's the way to listen. The best way to listen to the live with the mistakes that we'll edit out later. Ha ha. So, anyways, thank you to everybody, either now or in the future, for tuning in to What in the World, and we'll see you again next.